So this previous example is showing us that, well, we could make $100 more if we sold it for $5.60 rather than our traditional $10. Well, we can be ahead, but should we do that? And so that's where the basic rule is, we have to we have to think about these considerations. Uh, will the special order affect other sales? So this is something that we definitely need to consider about. It's like, well, what if this buyer takes our unit, 1,000 units, and then turns around and decides to sell it for $7 or $8? Well, now we're competing with ourselves. So this is something where you might want to have a consideration. Will you know it is the buyer, so let me put it down here. So you know will the buyer compete with us? I mean, you could put something into the contract or try to find some way of doing this, but depending on what you're selling, uh, this might be something that would not be of benefit. Now, of course, if this is some product that's being shipped overseas and you're not going to have competition locally, that would be one thing, because then it might also be the case that the other customers won't even know that this happened. Uh, how much capacity do we have? And so that would be another question, is if we can make these extra 1,000 units, but that means we're necessarily not making something else. And maybe that product would be more profitable per unit than the 10 cents a unit that we're getting here. There might be some number that would be worth it to us to go ahead and examine. But uh, but this is certainly is the case, is if we is if we think that it's going to affect other sales, then we might just say, take a pass on it. And there could be a bit more negotiating, and maybe that revenue will go up from 560. Um, but just because there's something that can be done doesn't mean it's something that you need to do. So the basic rule is, if it's greater, because what we're dealing with here again is the opportunity cost. And so if we're just have idle capacity, and some of you who've done internships have can attest to this, where there are times where you're sitting around looking for anything to do, and so the firm is losing because you're not working on any particular project. And that's not typically, it's not the fault or reason of the intern. It's from an organizational standpoint, you want to have some flexibility and ability to respond and put people into projects. Same thing is, like, you don't want to have capacity completely um, spoken for, because there might be different options coming in, or other products, or just even maintenance on machines. So if you have a particular product that is if you have a particular product that might benefit from a special order, these would be things that we would consider. But certainly, uh, this type of decision is something that the seller, the producer, needs to be judicious about. So there are always considerations that we need to think about. And so when you're addressing a problem like this, what you will need to do is go through the mathematical part that we see here, where we have identifying which costs are relevant, which costs in this case are not, and then examining whether some of the non-monetary aspects of it too, where what impact do we think this might have on additional sales or other sales.